those organs which needs to last a lifetime, and yet we tend not to pay much attention to it or take it for granted. But just like any valuable, if you fail to take good care of your heart, it will fail you. On Healthy Thursday, we ask what are some of the things we're doing that's hurting the heart, and what are some of the things we should be doing to ensure our heart won't give up on us prematurely. This week has seen thousands of young people throng designated centers for screening exercises for possible enlistment into the Ghana Immigration Service. Many have had their hearts broken because they were disqualified for one reason or another. Let's hear some of the reasons for disqualification.
Males, yes, that one will automatically disqualify you because it's part of the standard that was set. For females, there should be one PS, and if it's more than one, will be disqualified. With tattoo, visibly will disqualify both male and female because it's part of the standard. Uniform has our own language, and there are basic standards that we set. No tattoo.
I'm sure many have been questioning some of the criteria. Why is a tattoo or body piercing a problem? Why can't the service enlist short people? What's the problem with short people? What's the service's problem with excessive stretch marks? We'll get some understanding so you get to know what you need to do if you ever want to get enlisted into any of the security services. All that and more coming up on the AM show. I'm Israeli, and I'll be doing this with Inimwa Inimado, the adorable. Stay tuned in.
Well, good morning and welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Inimwa Inimado. Our very first story this morning, two senior police officers who attempted to arrest Medina MP Francis Xavier Sosu are expected to appear before the Privileges Committee of Parliament. This follows a petition by Mr. Sosu in which he cited the Greater Accra Regional Police Operations Commander, ACP Isaac Kojo Asante, and ACP Eric Winfall, the Adenta Abokobi Police Divisional Commander, for contempt of Parliament. There's a lot more in this report.
The petition, standing in the name of MP for Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu, wants the House to probe the two senior officers over their conduct during the demonstration he led in his constituency. But even before the House could make a determination on the petition, the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Makin, on a point of order, quizzed the MP on whether there was an official notification to the Speaker before the issue was brought up for consideration. The move to arrest the motion angered some minority MPs, including the Minority Leader, Haruna Idrisu. Listen to some of the arguments advanced by both sides of the House.
Just a clarification. The provision there is clear that provided he has previously notified Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he didn't add that to his submission to the effect that he has previously notified you of this application. I only wanted to be sure that this has been so done because, Mr. Speaker, there was a similar application during your temporary absence, and objection came from the Deputy Minority Leader.
You didn't even avail yourself for conclave. You just came in. Habib was holding the fort for all of you. That's what I'm saying. Don't spoil the temperature here.
Speaker, you don't answer for Speaker. I inquired from Mr. Speaker, and you want to answer for Mr. Speaker. I am only asking because that was your concern.
The Speaker, sensing an escalation of tempest, intervened and called the House to order, in which he asked the MPs to rise above pettiness.
Let me emphasize that matters of contempt of Parliament or members of Parliament or staff of Parliament are serious matters. Very, very serious matters. These are the building blocks of democracy. If we allow that to be eroded, we have no legs to stand on. You don't joke with that. You are not just members of Parliament. You are leaders. And if leaders cannot even take care of their constituents, what is your value? They have given all their destiny to you to lead them to have better lives. protect us, defend us, care for us, make sure we enjoy the fundamental human rights and freedoms that are guaranteed in the Constitution, so that we can exercise our potential to the fullest. You have that responsibility and you have to discharge it. That is why you are given special rights. So when we are dealing with contempt, it's not one of those issues that you can toy with. And I take a serious view of it. I am the one to determine. If I'm not notified, I will say so. I will hold the person and say, you are out of order. Go back and do the proper thing.
With calm setting in, Mr. Soso was given the floor to present his petition and narrated how he fled home for fear of being arrested by the police.
The police officers under the command of the said ACP Isaac Kojo Asante, the Regional Operations Commander, and Eric Winfo, the Divisional Commander of Adenta Abokobi, led their boys to manhandle me, their men to manhandle me and virtually held me and humiliated me right in the presence of my constituents with whom we were demanding for better roads. Honorable Speaker, but for the fact that the youth ganged up to rescue me from the hands of the police, they would have just bundled me like a common criminal into their standing vehicle. And Mr. Speaker, when the youth eventually supported.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Alban Bagbin, is incensed over the recent acts of harassment and threats of arrest of some members of Parliament by law enforcement agencies in the country. Sounding a note of caution, Mr. Bagbin warned he will not countenance such acts in the near future.
I myself will be issuing a statement in the near future on what is happening to members of Parliament from both sides of the House. Both sides of the House. I receive complaints. I receive information about how police service, some personnel, pursue members of Parliament from both sides of the House. And I've on a number of occasions intervened to talk to the authorities and to draw their attention to the law. Even sometimes I have to call the Attorney General and Minister for Justice in this matter. So apart from this, I myself had decided to come with a very comprehensive statement on this matter and let people know that members of Parliament have some special rights because of the peculiar nature of the position, the functions, and the duties of the Member of Parliament.
Now, dozens of job seekers pitched camp and spent the entire night in front of the WA Sports Stadium ahead of Wednesday's screening for the Ghana Immigration Service. The applicants said they decided to spend the night at the gate in order to make it in time for the process. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
It's exactly midnight and I'm in front of the WA Sports Stadium. The gates have temporarily been closed to the public. There are no lights here, and the street lights that overlook the WA airport are not functioning. Simply put, there is total darkness here except the lights for mobile phones or passing vehicles or motorists. However, there are streams of dozens of prospective Ghana Immigration Service applicants here. They are not here to keep vigil, but hope to be recruited into a job that will enable them to make ends meet. Some are standing, chatting among themselves, and others seated on student mattresses with their bags leaned on the stadium gate. They have in their hands piece of paper writing the names of their colleagues for winning the screening exercise. They have already registered 65 persons. They are doing it on their own volition. None of the immigration service officers is on site.
Yeah, I'm writing because if you are not in queue, and they'll come and just be doing whatever they want to do here. So I'm writing the name, protocol or whatever. So I'm just writing the names for us to be in order, so that we'll get everything done at the right time.
But who has asked you to come and write the names?
Oh no, it's a voluntary work. Nobody asked me to do it. I'm just doing it for us, for here to be peace.
We're actually doing that to ensure that there is we have foreseen that there is going to be pressure. So we want to make sure that that pressure is not that much. So that when we do this, it will help us reduce the pressure that is going to be here. Other than that, some people are coming from far away places and we have been here. But we wait tomorrow before you realize people will just come around anytime they want and they will ignore those of us who have been here early and be using their own list. That's why we are doing this for our own.
They told me they will be passing the night here in the cold and in the open.
This is my address. This is my address. So I'm going to sleep here. I'll sleep here. That's my address. We are here. We are here till they come. We are not going anywhere.
I hope they will be selected legitimately after the exercise.
Oh, we will be picked, inshallah. Inshallah.
We have hope that we will be picked because we qualify. And then if they will pass through the legal process, in fact, we are all having the assurance that we will get the job.
Thousands of their colleagues are expected to join them this morning to continue unabated the struggle of trying to see whether luck will sign on them here. At least this is their first step of achieving their lifelong dreams, and every hour spent to make it happen is seen not as a waste, but worth it. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Okay, it's time for fact-checking, and today we will put the spotlight on President Akufo-Addo's claims on improvements in the Ghanaian economy during a recent interview on Peace FM. Head of our research desk, Raymond Akwa, has more on these claims and the verdicts in this report.
Let's start with President Akufo-Addo's claim on inflation.
Inflation came down from nearly 16% to single digits, and it is now just crept over 10%.
This is true. According to the Ghana Statistical Service Consumer Price Index, the year 2016 ended with an inflation of 15.4%, which was the lowest since July 2014. Again, the year-on-year inflation for September 2021 was 10.6%, largely corroborating the claims by the president on inflation. Let's now turn our attention to the claim on Ghana's GDP growth rate for 2016.
2017, the last year of the predecessor government, rate of growth of the economy, 3.4%, the lowest in over 20 years.
The president's claim on the 2016 GDP being 3.4% is true, but the claim about this being the lowest in over 20 years is false. The lowest growth rate in the period under review was 2.1% recorded in 2015. According to the World Bank's national accounts data. The president further made claims about growth rate in 2017 and 2018.
Our first year rate of growth was over 8%. Second year, 7%.
The claim that the growth rate for 2017 was 8% is true, but the president's claim that growth rate for 2018 was 7% is false. According to the Statistical Service's annual GDP growth rate report for 2013 to 2020, it was rather 6.2%.
Okay, so if you love to buy your food by the roadside, what you're about to see might just be a little startling. Imagine your favorite fried rice being cooked in a dirty environment. And as if that's not enough, right by fecal matter. Well, this was the situation at an eatery near the Neoplan station at Circle, right here in Accra, when officials of the AMA stormed the place. My colleague Judith Awatritando was with the team and reports that the shop has been closed down.
I'm here at a guest house at Circle around Neoplian Station. Now this guest house has been operating since the June 3rd floods without a toilet facility for over 20 occupants, and also it doesn't have a septic tank, and so when people defecate they come and throw it in a container right by.
Here is a resident that they have shops here, they have a restaurant here, they have a drinking bar here. And there is a suspected guest house here that we want to check. So we are going in there to start our inspection to check the sanitation situation here. What is going on here? What do you do here? So is it your kitchen or your serving room? What do you do here?
I do cook and serve.
So look at what is happening here. This is fresh. This meat just come from the fire. And you yourself have created an unhygienic condition around where you are preparing the food. You get it? So just imagine that where you are preparing the food is in this bad condition. And people are sitting right there waiting for you to come and serve them. Huh? What is happening here? Can you tell us? Look at the corner where you are preparing the food.
I'm preparing the food.
No, where? Look at the sanitation. Where is it in a good condition? Where you are preparing the food?
I'm about to arrange it.
You're about to arrange it, and you are preparing the food under the bad condition. Just look at what is happening. William, here. Come. Hey. So this is fecal matter. So the fecal matter flies to come into where the fecal matter is and go and step on the food that you are selling for public consumption. Look at what is happening here. Hey. So how many times have we warned you not to serve or not to prepare food here and serve for public consumption? How many times? This is fecal matter. And you don't even mind, and you are selling food, you are preparing your food close to it. Look at what is happening. So we are come to confiscate all these things because the food that is preparing there is not in a good condition. So we will not allow you to sell it for public consumption. So please, we will confiscate all your items. We will take back to the office. Go and identify a place where it's more hygienic condition. Then we'll come and give you items to go and prepare the food. So please, because we give you several warnings that don't prepare the food here. You could see physics here. Can't you see what is happening there? So how many times should we come and talk to you? The begging will not solve anything. We are talking about the health of the public. So begging AMA will not solve anything. That's what I'm asking. How many times should we not to come and tell you that don't come to sell, prepare the food and sell it here? Because the environmental condition here is not favorable to your activity, but you keep on preparing the food close to where the fecal matter is.
Sir, if you can ask, where exactly is this fecal matter coming from?
This fecal matter is coming from this building. And that's what I'm saying. It's been a very long time that this building has been there. So the septic tank has broken down. But they also keep on using the tank.
So this is human feed.
Yes. So from here we'll go and find the landlord and we'll find out what is causing this. Because the thing is blocked. So since the thing is blocked, all the fecal material will just come and stack in there.
Okay, so this is a mini restaurant that is selling food right by fecal matter. And so the food has been sold here for some years now, and according to the AMA, they have visited this area several times and told them to leave or stop cooking here, but they have not done that, and they keep cooking food by fecal matter, human feces, just going right into a container right by them. And so the AMA is breaking down their facility and stopping them from working with immediate effect.
Guy be our year repower no. We are not the home combo.
So for now, no more occupy on even a mocha toilet.
No, the omina go outside. Omina I didn't mean station ho.
So come. These are fresh feces. You understand? So if they all go outside to go, no, I'm telling you.
On your on say in sona tono. We know wood. But you stop woman
in the Siana, one more kind of war for 1 month. No, your mouse away. Next week we are taking the house to court. So that why you are not interested about the property. If the property don't belong, you are the caretaker. So please, take it and communicate to your landlord. We finish our work.
Reporting for Joy News, my name is Judith Awache Tando.
And that's a wrap for the AM News. The AM show continues right after this. I can't wait to get annoyed, you know.
Annoyed by what?
Just by things, you know, especially since my, you know, feelings about the Hearts of Folk loss are beginning to, you know, kind of even out and all of that. So it'd be nice to have something.
Hold on. You know, Bayern Munich, they played a game yesterday. They lost 5 goals to 0. Bayern Munich, 5 goals to 0.
Oh, okay. Bayern Munich is the team for which region of Accra? Of Ghana, sorry.
It's a German team. It's a German team.
Oh, where is Germany? Is Germany in Africa?
It's a massive team.
Is Germany in Africa?
No.
Is Germany in Ghana? Does Bayern Munich have anything to do with Ghana? No. House of Folk is here. Accra. Ghana, no. You can't be comparing yourselves to Bayern Munich and stuff. I mean, come on. Okay,
the sports guys will come in and tell you a lot more about the Bayern Munich loss.
just care about House of Folk and their abysmal loss. Should we do the newspapers? Or should we continue to talk about...
Big teams lose.
Should we continue to talk about Hearts of Folk this morning?
Okay.
So do you qualify for the army or the immigration service?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm tall enough.
You're tall enough.
I don't have tattoos.
No tattoos, no piercings, no stretch marks.
No stretch marks.
Bleaching.
No bleaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you. And you fall within the age of sergeant, lieutenant, major, colonel.
Okay. Yeah, maybe the age may not work for me.
The age may not work for you.
Yeah.
Oh, you can be an army consultant on communication affairs.
It's true.
Yes. Everything is possible, including losing by 6 goals. So, yeah. Should we do the daily
And just for the record, it's 6-1.
The one doesn't matter. It's still 6 against you. You allowed them to shoot you 6 times.
Wait, 6-1. So 6 minus 1, it's 5.
Okay, I have a question for you.
The same margin by Munich loss.
I have a question for you. How many times did the ball enter your net?
6 times.
That's all I had to say about that. Okay. Should we do the daily graphic or should we continue?
Okay. Let's get on with the daily graphic. And on the front page, will you allow me to continue?
Yes.
On the front page, STC faces financial crisis, losing 50 million cedis to COVID-19, appeals for urgent bailout. So Intercity...
Wait, but STC, were they not facing crisis already?
Well, they've been doing fine for some time.
They've been doing fine. So people have stopped travel. Okay, because of the spacing.
Because of that. So Intercity STC Coaches Limited has lost over 50 million cedis in revenue since the COVID-19 pandemic struck in March last year and needs immediate financial bailout to survive. The company lost about 3 million cedis during the partial lockdown of Accra and 7.5 million cedis as a result of the social distancing directive by the government that required vehicles to operate at half passenger capacity. The managing director of STC has disclosed this to the Daily Graphic, and he said the company has also been losing about 2.6 million cedis monthly over the last 17 months because of the closure of land borders with neighboring countries such as Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Burkina Faso, and Togo, where STC operated too. So, and then he also talks about the high fuel prices. So, well, STC needs bailout. But STC is not the only one that needs bailout. Everybody needs bailout.
Including Hearts of Folk.
Okay, let's move on. Which other story do you have on the front page of the Daily Graphic? AFDB grants 75 million dollar loan to GIF, facility to finance projects. And then coordinated effort needed to combat climate change, Showbiz declaration, and stay off KNUST lands or face my wrath. That's Asante Hene saying that. And I'm also interested in the Showbiz declaration. It's on page 16. We'll get to that in a bit. It doesn't seem we talk that much or pay much attention to climate change, but we should. Inside Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa to see economic recovery, and BioNTech to make vaccines in Senegal and Rwanda. Okay, that's good. You can also make the vaccines here in Ghana, you know, so And Kenyans shun voter registration exercise. Let's get on. Oh, interesting. There's this story here. World Stroke Day. October 24 every year has been set aside to create awareness about stroke. We're talking about the heart today on the AM show, so you want to stay tuned in for that. I'm seeing a wanted person's image being posted in the Daily Graphic. Jones Oforiata. He's wanted.
For what though?
Yeah. Immediate arrest for the offenses of defrauding by false pretense and fraudulent transaction. Okay. So the photo is here. We don't have that, but well, Jones Oforiata is wanted. So if you know him.
If you know him, tell him he's wanted, or if you know him, turn him in.
If you know him, both.
Okay.
Tell him that he's wanted, and then you can turn him in as well if he's refusing to make himself available. All right, agenda. NGO calls on Parliament to ratify ILO Convention 190. Don't divorce wives with breast cancer. Dr. Yafi advises husbands. Oh, are men divorcing?
I mean, obviously, they must be if the doctor is saying that you shouldn't. Maybe they missed the for better, for worse, and sickness and in health part of the vows. So. All
right, AFDB grants $75 million loan to GIFT. That's the story that was on the front page. And then coordinated effort needed to combat climate change, Chebi Declaration. So participants in the climate change dialogue have underscored the need for coordinated efforts within and among nations to bring local actions to overcome climate change. They expressed the conviction that a meaningful fight against climate change and the quest for sustainable development in Africa would require that all actions were aligned with the elimination of poverty. So this was contained in a 31-point declaration known as the Chebi Declaration, issued at the end of a 2-day royal dialogue on climate change and the UN Sustainable Development Goals in Chebi in the Eastern region. There's more in the Daily Graphic. Politics: reject anti-LGBTQI plus bill. Group urges Parliament. So the concerned citizens against the promotion of proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill 2020 have called on Parliament to reject the bill as it is unconstitutional and has no place in a secular democratic state. So you can get a bit more on that on page 17. It has Mr. Akoto Ampah, a member of the concerned Ghanaian citizens, reading a statement on behalf of the group during the media briefing, which was yesterday. Medina MP drags police to Parliament for contempt. We have that story in the AM News. Alleged incest, NDC communicator trial adjourned. So the trial of the Central Regional Communications Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Emmanuel Kwesi Dawood, has been adjourned to November 2, 2021. Then we go to, let's head towards the page 24. Right, President presents vehicles to armed forces, cut short for housing projects. So there's some nice vehicles here that the president has handed over to the Jeeps.
Yeah, I've seen them, very nice.
Quite robust, yeah. They're lovely. DVLA completes phase 2 digitalization project. Okay, wondering what that will bring. And help us settle judgment as UG Vice Chancellor appeals to President. Mr. President, I would like to make an appeal to your government to deliver us from this rogue that hinders our growth and effort to be truly world-class. That's an appeal coming from the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nana Abba Apia Amfo, who was had a ceremony to think investiture. So okay.
Yeah,
so,
it was yesterday, and
it was just
I think I remember the story.
Her swearing in. Actually.
Yeah, the University of Ghana contracted some. I think it was pen drive, some kind of, and then there was a whole thing about it. It's the story. The botched agreements leading to the deaths. I remember I did the story. I just can't remember all the details of it. But I think the points that she was making was that because of this massive debt, it's difficult to develop the university or to open up. And she was talking about the fact that with free SHS, they're going to have to expand. So they want some city campuses in Kumasi and I think Cape Coast as well. But they need money to be able to do that. But right now, you know, lots of money has been siphoned into paying off some of these things. So expansion has become a problem. And I think that this is something very important because I would hope that in the campaign promising and the implementation of free SHS, we were mindful of the fact that a lot more students will then be going to universities. So what is the plan for expanding these universities? Because I haven't really seen any comprehensive plan, you know, to expand the capacity of, you know, the universities, their infrastructure, their teachers, their professors, you know, all of that. So if there are lots more kids going to SHS and you haven't made plans to accommodate them at university level, are you putting a cap on their education and saying, you know, that's it? And we talk about technical universities a lot and stuff, you know, but not everybody wants to do that. You know, sometimes people just want to go and get a degree and whatever, you know, and they should be able to do it. So again, it's a very typical scenario here in Ghana, how we expand a road and then it all kind of goes into one lane, like the Tematon Road, you know. Now it's free SHS, you know, going into university. So it's
a conversation that came up actually, and the government's attention was drawn to it, and government said,
they didn't know when they were planning the thing.
The government's attention was drawn to it, and they said yes, we have that in mind. So
in mind, which part of the mind? Because the free SHS, like they are doing the free SHS.
Yeah, and they should be getting into the universities.
So the plan is still in their minds away.
Well,
and then stop hiring the commercial jets and use the money to expand the universities.
They should still hiring commercial jets.
Yeah, for the president. Use the money to pay some of the debts and stop making, like, some of the things, you see, corruption is such a big thing. Some of the, what's the name?
What's your problem with the president?
I don't have a problem with the presidential jet. You know, if the president wants Air Force One and we can afford it, give him Air Force One.
Okay.
But mind you, the person who has Air Force One has, look at the number of universities in the US. They're not fighting over free SHS and classrooms and trees and, do you know what I mean? Like, we'll get there, but let's be, Charlie, it's just, yeah.
Well, but you said the president used to be your Chucho Mucho. You should have discussed it with him before.
I've left him for all these reasons. I mentioned it.
To him?
Yes, on the show. I did. Before Eugene came and did the press conference. Anyway, apparently the minority are making noise about it, so I'll leave them to
so they're bringing it up on the floor in Parliament. They brought a motion to that effect. All right, let's get on with the news review. Use strategic stocks to reduce high fuel prices. So, former Finance Minister Setekbe has advised the government to use money accrued from the price stabilization and recovery levy to build strategic stocks of crude oil and use same to cushion consumers in the event of soaring world market prices of the commodity. Now, this is what everybody else is talking about, and we're expecting that to happen. Hopefully,
everybody else is not talking about that. Everybody else is talking about House of Folk and how they lost the match.
Okay, I hear you. Have they stopped talking about it, or they are still talking about it?
So we'll talk about it until we are satisfied.
Well, what will satisfy you?
I don't know.
Hey. All right, in showbiz, Gamro not attractive. That's your dope saying that. And no sense in rap nowadays. Padogo.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true. I don't agree with that.
With Padogo.
I don't even know who he is in the first place.
Oh, he used to be one of those guys who started doing in this rap thing, hip life thing a while back.
I mean, when you talk about deep lyrics like myself or Kratom, JD or Brafo or Lord Kenya, I mean, yes, but even in those times, there were still the really silly rap songs. And I mean, in these times, we have Kojo Q, you know, for example, who spits out really good lyrics that make sense. We have people like Walasi, I mean, who are talking sense, you know, Manifest, you know, so how do you just... Right, thank you. Definitely not Hearts of Folk. They don't have a rap team, do they?
Reclassify licenses or forget government bids. That's the roads minister saying that. And let's get to see what we have in sports. In sports...
Israel, I've been talking for 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, I've been talking. You have also contributed as well. Queen's Baton Relay ends in Kumasi. And there's a photo here of Otumfuo Setutu receiving the Queen's Baton from It's Ben Nunu Mensah at the Menchia Palace yesterday, and President Akufo-Addo also handing over the Queen's baton to Mrs. Akusia Frimoso Apari, the Chief of Staff, to start a 3-day tour. And then on the back, Graphic Uracare hold breast screening exercise. This breast screening exercise has been happening for some time now.
No, yesterday they said they were going to do it, and today they are saying they've done it.
All right, 2 robbers die in gun battle with police. Okay, that's it.
Oh God, we thought you'd never finish. Okay, Daily Guide is very interesting today.
Okay.
So, 217 million CD financial loss. Attorney General defends Opuni ruling. There are so many stories around this this thing. I'm not going to talk about any of them because I can't take on the Attorney General.
Why?
In the court of law. We tried to argue with him before. Yeah, no, not today. This story is the one that is just Shatawale and medical undergo spiritual cleansing. When was the last time you were spiritually cleansed?
Every day.
Every day?
Yeah, in my commune with God, I get spiritual cleansing.
Which commune is this? Did you talk to our House of Folk? You did you? But we had to speak on digital economy. Nana gives more vehicles to the military. Let's do a few international stories. Senators back criminal charges against Bolsonaro. U.S. begins legal appeal to extradite Assange. Oh, Assange. He's always in trouble. He's always in trouble. I wonder how,
if you let him be, I mean.
Yeah, like, lawyers for the U.S. have told the High Court the judge who blocked Julian Assange's extradition was misled by his psychiatrist. Oh, wow. Okay.
WikiLeaks must have hurt the U.S. government.
Oh, yeah. WikiLeaks. And I think, so he's wanted about the publication of thousands of classified documents in 2010 and 2011. The U.S. are saying that the leaks broke the law and endangered lives, but Mr. Assange says the case is politically motivated. His life is very interesting. African Union suspends Sudan over coup. Nigerian man arrested for putting himself on sale. Just said times are hard. You sell yourself. So this guy, 26-year-old Ali Yuna Idris, was trending on social media last weekend for putting himself out for sale due to poverty. Hizbah commander Harun Ibn Sana confirmed the arrest to the BBC. Yes, we arrested him on Tuesday. He spent the night with us. What he did is forbidden in Islam. You can't try to sell yourself no matter your condition or your situation. The arrested Taylor has been speaking to local journalists before his arrest. He said he was in a huge financial mess. Hence his decision to put himself up for 20 million naira, $49,000, 35,000 pounds. And he was selling himself to wholeheartedly serve his buyer. So before he did this, he broke down the money. So if somebody had bought him for the $49,000, he planned to give his parents $24,000. Then he will pay $12,000 as tax to the government, give $5,000 to anyone who helps me to get a buyer, and then keep the remaining for his daily upkeep. He was planning to pay tax. I mean, he's tired. Do you understand? Like, wapre, selling himself. Breast cancer is not a spiritual disease. Yeah. As for Ghana, there we can make everything spiritualist. Okay, let me tell you about Shatawale and medical spiritual cleansing. So, celebrated dancehall artists Shatta and Medical, they visited one of the beaches in Accra to perform some spiritual rites. Together with 3 others, the artists have been on remand. Now, they were seen in a video holding hands with their heads bowed, praying at the beach. And they were accompanied by their close families and friends and some fans. So, it's interesting. The picture has, I think, Shatawale in boxers and the rest of them in clothes. Spiritual cleansing at the beach. I don't get it when people post news. That's actress Martha Nkuma speaking. And she obviously has been a role model for young girls who want to remain decent and still pursue a career in showbiz, because she's always been so decently dressed and almost, you know, scandal-free. So, yeah. Mother of legendary rapper Snoop Dogg dies, and Ifya Schwarzenegger is advising Shatawale and Medical. I don't even want to know what she said. Like, Okay, So she says, Efia Shwasika says, Medical and Shatawale should take advantage of their current situation and embark on a positive campaign that will benefit their followers. So take steps to educate their followers in connection to their recent arrests. That's what she's saying. So basically, you know, turn it around, do some PR, and yeah. Okay, so more Ghanaians risk contracting stroke. That story there. Celestine Donka appointed as COVID-19 ambassador. And on the back page, Bayern star avoids jail for defying court order. I prefer another player to Hazard. That's Carlo Ancelotti speaking there. Pochettino still Man United #1 target. And GFA boss begs, GFA begs FIFA for fairness in Ethiopia-Ghana game in South Africa. So the Ghana Football Association has officially sent an appeal to FIFA asking that their World Cup qualifier against Ethiopia, which has been moved to South Africa, a country in Ghana's group, is not compromised. Okay, I'm not sure why they are worried that it will be compromised, but I'm sure Reku will tell us more about it when he comes after 7 o'clock. Okay. Okay, I'll do the dispatch daily dispatch quickly. I'll revisit referendum to pave way for election of MMDCs. That's Akufo-Addo saying that. Where J donates maternity block to KNUST. Why didn't you present your 1 million votes to the Supreme Court? Kabila asks Mahama. Re-equipping armed forces, we have made gains, but we need to do more. That's Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Dubaumia. And then on the back page, there's this photo which shows the recent, like the some coaches who have, some people who have coached the Manchester United in recent times. So the last 4, and it has David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and they're looking at the games they've played, the games they've won, the games they've lost, and the trophies they've won. So Ole, and it looks like the percentage win. The percentage, so Ole actually is not doing so bad. It's usually around. So David Moyes 53% wins. Louis van Gaal 52%, Jose Mourinho 58%. So Jose Mourinho appears to have been the most successful so far in recent times. And Ole, he's won 55% of the game of his matches, but then he's the one with 0 trophies. You know what's interesting? George Addo Jr. and I did some analysis on Jose Mourinho and how he has managed to make more money from being let go, from being fired, than he actually has from keeping a job. So there's just a story that I want to do quickly before we go to my Joy Online. Junkies, mental health patients occupy Accra streets. And sometimes I do feel sorry for the president because there's so many issues that have to be dealt with, which is why delegation is important and all of that. Anyway, so the public has expressed concern about junkies and other people with mental health challenges who are roaming the streets of Accra. Especially if you work at night and you have to use the road, your roads or the pavements, you know, they're taking over the pavement. Some of them are hallucinating, are delusional, they are hearing voices, seeing things. The next thing you hear is, pow! And they would have slapped you for free. For free, you know, just like that. Again, mental health illnesses are treatable and are manageable, you know, if you can take them off the streets and get them the correct care. But then it also seems like a vicious cycle because you put them in the hospital, you get them the correct care, and when you release them, their families don't want them. So then, you know, what do we do? But we have to do something about it. So let's get to my Joy Online now. Let's get to my Joy Online now. So the power of the people is stronger than the people in power. Oh, wow. That sounds very nice. The power of the people is stronger than the people in power. Except that the power of the people only manifests every 4 years. And sometimes the people give up their power for. Then I carry the cross for my family. It must end with me, breast cancer survivor. Supreme Court was afraid, didn't do justice to election petition hearing. That's Spencer White, who was a witness for John Mahama in the election petition. And Akufo-Addo presents 50 vehicles to Army, cut sword for $24.8 million housing project. That's another housing project. That one, it will succeed because it's for the Army. I was sued for instituting reforms at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Okoboy reveals. Okay. Electoral Commission has become more partisan than political parties. Mr. White again. Speaker of Parliament refers Medina MP's contempt charges against police officers to Privileges Committee.
So who's going to be hauled in? Is it the IGP who's going to be hauled in?
I don't know.
Before the Privileges Committee.
To be interesting.
Archbishop
no, I think, which story is that you're doing?
So
That's the MP. No, I think it's the the regional commander for Abokobi Adenta. And
but can they go for those people? I thought the IGP has to, speak for them. All right. Archbishop of Canterbury, others oppose anti-LGBTQI+ bill, pledged to engage with Archbishop of Ghana. Supreme Court not ready to protect Ghana's democracy, as here doing says so.
Okay, all right. So that's it for my journal line. That's it for the newspaper review. But that's not it for the AM show, because we're here until 9 o'clock. And we're going to get into some sports now. When we come back, we're going to have a very interesting conversation about some of the reasons why people are disqualified from joining the security forces. For example, if you have a tattoo, if you have piercings, if you have stretch marks, if you have tattoos, if you're short.
What's height got to do with it?
What's height got to do with it? We'll be asking Tina Turner when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM Sports with me, Oreku. It's a big day in Ghana football as we're gearing up to the start of the football season right here in Ghana. Well, that's for tomorrow, but as you know, the customary measure that usually takes place before the new season is the GFA, who do go sit at Congress to tackle issues from last season and then issues that they anticipate would be coming. And today is the day set for the Ghana Football Association Congress, and our man Muftau Nabila Abdullahi, he's currently at Pram Pram getting ready to cover the event. And it's a pleasure to have you, Muftau, on the phone lines. So far, what's the atmosphere like, arriving at Pram Pram?
Well, Orico, it's quite boring. Nothing much is actually happening. Members of the football governing body are yet to arrive here. However, I've seen some people having their own activities happening, especially Hazakas ladies. I've seen Hazakas ladies having their training session. I've seen former Kumasi Asante Kotoko assistant coach Johnson Smith also here. And the marketing department of the Ghana Football Association getting the flesh ready with their banners and all that. The event is happening at the Honorable E.T. Mensah Multipurpose Hall. We are privileged to have laid fingers on the GFA Congress document, and some of the interesting things, just to run you by them, are that the FA is requesting for 58 million Ghana cedis budget for them to spend for the next football season. And then also in that same document, you recall the last year we have reported they wanted 71 million Ghana cedis, but this time around they've dropped it to 58 million Ghana cedis, which is 30 million Ghana cedis less. And also in that same document, they have stated that last year, or the just ended football season, there were about 157 disciplinary cases that were brought before the Ghana Football Association, and they intend to speak to members to ensure that they adhere to the footballing rules, because these number of disciplinary issues are very difficult for the Football Association to attend to. In the same document, they have also spoken about the alleged match fixing involving Asgold and Interallies. Apparently, they had reported the case to Interpol. They reported the case to the Criminal Investigation Department of the Ghana Football Association. These were done by the Secretary General of the Ghana FA, Prosper Harrison Addo, per the document. But the conclusion part of it is that they stated that investigation is still ongoing. These are some of the key things that we picked up in that document. Most of the other things, we had reported them last year. So they are basically nothing new. The agenda for the day, there's nothing new in the agenda.
Muftau, right before we let you go, concerning the alleged match-fixing scandal, Ketokreku did mention that they've come to a conclusion and we'll be hearing some news concerning a verdict or a verdict of some sort by end of week.
That is actually not what he said. What he actually said was that those investigating the issue, they are hoping that they will present their findings by the close of this week. So that is not a conclusion. Per what I know, even hearing of the case is here to start. They've not even gone through the hearing. It's just the people who are gathering their details. When they bring the details to the right adjudicated bodies, then the class will now appear for a proper hearing. But as we speak, hearing has not even started in relation to that matter.
All right, thank you very much, Muftal Nabil Abdullah. He's currently at Pampram getting ready for the Ghana Football Association Congress ahead of the new season. And through our bulletins in the day, we'll be getting you live updates from Pampram. But let's do some more stories, but still sticking with the Ghana Football Association, as the president, Keto Kreku, is keen to work with security agencies to clamp down on hooliganism in the sport. The football governing body was blamed for their inability to curb violence at various match venues last season. Paquette is optimistic of ensuring players, officials and then fans are safe before, during and after league games. Haruna Mubarak of the Joy Sports Desk has the rest of the story.
This was a chaotic scene at the Sunyani Coronation Park in the match between BA United and Real Tamale United in Zone 1 of the Division 1 League last season. The fans were angry and upset at the decision of the centre referee, Maxwell Hansen, to award a penalty to RTU. The game was eventually abandoned and RTU had to be escorted out of Sunyani by the police. The violent scene is just one of many to have transpired in the 2020-2021 Ghana football season. Officials and players were not the only victim of the violence. Coaches were also left frustrated.
My worry is that the officials were threatened. They were insulted, threatened that they would beat them, as had happened in the one man so far or something. And so the referees were
I think they were intimidated.
They were intimidated. Now they at the tunnel, they told them that if even one of them chased them into this, I was annoyed even chasing him into the room, telling him if they should lose, they would beat him like the one man for something.
Yeah. Many blamed the GFA, but the president of the football governing body, Ket Okreku, said it is not his responsibility to arrest perpetrators and further charged the police to do so. But the Ghana Police Service, speaking to Joy Sports, insists they set out to protect lives and properties at match centers and not immediately arrest hooligans.
So our presence at football matches, we are ensuring general security, but also security for the officials. So this will be the referees and the match commissioners. Security for the playing body. Security for spectators. Security for properties that are in the stadium and surrounding areas. Because at the end of the whistle, police often escorts the officials and the playing body out of the area and see to it that spectators are also out and safe.
The recent launch of the 2021-2022 football season means domestic competitions will start and issues of hooliganism are likely to resurface. GFA boss Ket Okreku is urging the Inspector General of Police and other security agencies to come to their aid and help eradicate the canker.
You can't prevent somebody from misbehaving, sorry. But when it is that it happens, there are rules that you have to follow. And I think over last season, we did our maximum. We continue to educate people. I think that the educational drive will be intensified this year. And hopefully, we would be able to minimize the act of hooliganism that we all went through. It's important that people understand that there are always three results in the game: a win, a draw, or a defeat. It's simple. Okay? And when it is that you're not happy, there are laid down procedures for you to address your concerns, and we must respect the laid down procedures that we have. I think that we've done our best, and we continue to do our best in terms of engaging the security agencies. I've gone as far as the IGP, but we'll continue to work for football in this country. The judicial bodies are working, and we would also encourage the IGP and his personnel also to be by our side.
The Ghana Premier League is set to start this Friday, October 29, with other competitions following suit subsequently.
Well, to some more Ghana Premier League news, where Cherano Gold Mines on Tuesday presented a 33-seater VIP Grand Bed Bars to BBNE Gold Stars FC for their participation in the Ghana Premier League. Gold Stars will, for the first time in 24 years, be participating in the elite division of Ghana football after coming close several times. The BBNE-based club secured a historic Ghana Premier League promotion from Zone 2 of the Division 1 league with 2 games to the end of the season under their former coach Kobna Emisa. Now, Live FM's Delali Atiasi was at the presentation ceremony and put together this report.
The presentation ceremony was graced by chiefs of the Western North region, government officials, as well as management and staff of Mensim Bibiani Goldfields and Chirano Mines. General Manager of Chirano Gold Mines, Terence Watungwa, is hopeful that the donation will help the team travel comfortably to their league matches during the season.
Today, Chirano Gold Mines is proud to present this bus to Bibiani Gold Stars Football Club to provide the team with a safe and comfortable means of transportation as they compete in this prestigious Ghana Premier League.
Mr. Watungwa, who doubles as the Vice President of Chirano Mines, said the gesture goes to strengthen Chirano Mines' obligation to being an excellent corporate organization.
This donation reinforces our commitment to being an outstanding corporate citizen and a strategic partner in the socio-economic development of the Western North region of Ghana. Many clubs never reach the pinnacle of association football, but you have succeeded. The Bibiani Gold Stars have indeed glorified their motto, G Nyame. We at Chirano Gold Mines believe that you as a team have the skill needed to stay in the Premier League. But to successfully compete in this high level, the football club requires support and assistance in many ways. It is for this reason that Chirano Gold Mines is very glad to support the club with this bus donation.
On his part, Chief Executive Officer of Gold Stars, Kwesiedu, re-echoed calls for unity amongst the supporters of the club while acknowledging the support from Chirano and Mensim Mines towards the growth and development of the club.
This gathering here today is something that I call it a privileged gathering, and it's a historic one, of course. We are so happy to see something beautiful in front of us. Nothing but a 33-seater VIP garnet bus. We're hoping this is a sign of unity that football can bring to the society.
Well, let's do some more stories, and a more devastating one. That's the next story, as Ghana international Rafael Dramina collapsed on the pitch during BW Linz's Cup game against TSV Hartsburg on Wednesday night. The Ghanaian was named in the starting lineup by the home side in the round of 16 OFB Cup game against Hartsburg. Now, the match had to be abandoned following his collapse. The player had to be treated on the sidelines during the first half of the game and looked to be okay, but moments later, a medical emergency in the stadium was called upon by the coaching bench, and the rescue workers had to rush over there. In the meantime, he has been transferred to the hospital to clarify his condition. Dramina, remember, has been restricted to playing very little time due to persistent concerns over his health, specifically his heart. Well, that's how we wrap up here. For more details, visit myjoyonline.com/sport or follow us on social media at JoySportsGH, as we'll be bringing you updates of the Ghana Football Association Congress ahead of the new football season. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and the AM show continues right after this.
I'm begging you.
Yeah, don't worry. Just give us a phone, okay?
No.
Tears roll as some applicants get rejected in their bid to get enlisted into the Ghana Immigration Service.
Stop crying.
One of the major disqualification factors is height.
Very sad.
I couldn't meet the target with regards to the height.
Minimum 1 meter 73 centimeters for males and 1 meter 63 centimeters for females.
When you input your data into the system, you enter your own height, what you have. But they will be checking the height physically on the ground to see whether what you put into the system is the correct one.
Chief Superintendent Alfred Fifi Okran, in charge of intelligence, explains.
Because he wanted a system to pick him, he inputted a height which is not original, so that the system can qualify him for him to get entrance. So that is why we are here to do the physical checking. So those who have manipulated the system by inputting wrong information, physically when we check, they will take you out. And the moment we disqualify you, the system close your page automatically. So there's no way you can find a way to come back onto the entrance so that you can still go through the system.
Disqualification also stretches into the realm of other factors like tattoos and body piercings.
The search for your body, tattoo, all those piercing, ear piercing. If you have one, you are not qualified for that.
I was kind of nervous, but I went through, so it was.
You have a great body. Were they mesmerized by that?
Well, they were actually really tough on us, but we actually went through.
There should be no piercing for males. Yes, that one automatically disqualifies you because it's part of the standard that was set. For females, there should be one piercing. If it's more than one, will be disqualified. With tattoo, visibly will disqualify you, both male and female, because part of the study. Uniform has our own language, and there are basic standards that we set. No tattoos, no double piercing or excessive, no excessive stretch marks, then scars, surgical scars.
Today, the process is moving faster, and the numbers are going down. For some, it's the end of the road, but for others, is a progression to the next stage.
If you see people coming through this lane, it means they've been disqualified by height. If you see them coming through this lane, it means they've been disqualified by body selection, and they have what they are looking for. Those who are coming through here on the larger part have sailed through. It is yet to be seen how many will be disqualified and how many will be writing the aptitude test on Saturday. But definitely somebody will be picked. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
All right, so as you've seen, this week has seen thousands of young people throng these designated centers for screening to be enlisted for exercises for possible enlistment into the Ghana Immigration Service. Many have had their hearts broken, as you saw there, because they were disqualified for one reason or another. I'm sure many have been questioning some of the criteria. Why is a tattoo or body piercing a problem? Why can't the service enlist short people? What's their problem with short people? What's the service's problem with excessive stretch marks? And we'll be getting some understanding on as to why this is happening. But on Twitter, we have the video on Twitter, and it turns out that it's gone quite far. We have, what, about 1,200 retweets and 666 quote tweets. So we have Ura Amo saying, I'm patiently waiting to hear from the human rights people. And Coco says, did he just say no excessive stretch marks and scars? Please find a better alternative for disqualification and stop being petty. Mamifia also said, I thought I heard it wrong. Jeffrell says, that's sad. Ghana Brixton says, very unfortunate. And Michael says, short people are rejected by girls regularly, and now immigration too. Oh, what should they do? Sad world. Yeah, really. Come to think of it. Now, sad Ghana, please. And this is very sad to hear that your body type disqualifies you from working at Ghana Immigration. It is really sad. What can be done to stop this? Not to even talk about stretch marks and scars. That's just ridiculous. Kweku says, Sham, we all know there are no jobs. They just want to lower the unemployment situation sentiment by conducting the sham recruitment exercise. So yeah, you can say that, but that's not really the case. This criteria has been there for a while now. Essentially, it's been there for ages. And we're getting to understand why it was actually introduced in the first place, especially at a time when we have a lot of technology. Technology abounds. People are not actually going out there to fight wars anymore. They're using equipment, they're using gadgets, they're using weapons. So we'll be getting into that conversation. I also posted it on Facebook, and there are those who are asking, why should they, but they shouldn't worry. They shall one day become the president of Ghana, since there's a record of historical antecedent in the near future shall prove them the right to be one. Okay, not quite getting that reference there to the president. Okay, but the president is indeed Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. So, yeah. But yes, let's get into the conversation. And joining us, we have Adam Bona. He's a security analyst. I'm sure he would have had some understanding of where and why these things were introduced into the Ghana Armed Forces, well, into the security agencies.
Yeah. Okay, so good morning, sir. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, great. So I think obviously we want to start with the height conversation, but we're also joined by Festus Abuaji.
Colonel Festus Abuaji.
Colonel Festus Abuaji, yes. So good morning to you, Colonel, as well.
Good morning.
Okay, so actually let me start with you, Colonel, this morning, and I've just been reading about the height requirements. That's what really seems to be on the top of the minds of most Ghanaians this morning. Now, the U.S. Army, for example, also have height restrictions. You have to fall within a certain height bracket. Now, the reason that they have said for their height restrictions is the fact that apparently height correlates with strength. And so, because soldiers are required to carry heavy armor and do all of that, they need people who are strong. Is that the same reason that we are given as Ghanaians? Is that reason moot, especially for the fact that, you know, there's a lot less of carrying guns and stuff that's going on in the world right now? Are we sticking to that same reason as well?
Well, there could be. But let's take a very commonsensical approach to the question of height.
Okay.
Now, when you are a bit short, below a certain height level, you equate to being a dwarf. And dwarfism is, let me call it a deformity. But in practice, you see that the vehicles that are used, those that carry human beings and goods, have a certain height. The average service personnel must be able to jump into those vehicles and out without any assistance. Now, a dwarf would need to be lifted, that is assisted, to get into the vehicle and probably to get out. The other practical experience that I can relate to is that when we form up to go on route marches, on parade, but especially route marches, as a form of training, we put all the short people in front and all the tall people to the rear. And you see that the shorter people take shorter steps, and then the taller people take longer steps. Now, in practice, if you are tall, you realize that you are spending a lot of energy to reduce your long steps to short steps to cope with the shorter people. If you reverse it and put the taller people in front, they will outstrip the shorter people. So below a certain height, you are creating, let me call it capability issues, or you're creating problems for a team. So these are some of the reasons about height. There could be also logistical reasons that when you clothe your service personnel, especially in this country where we are, we don't have databases of averages to say that 10% of, let's say, immigration officers are within this height bracket and so on. So you make a very rough estimate, and then you order the uniforms. And then the taller people probably will have to go and loosen the end in order to wear those uniforms. The shorter people have to go and cut off, and reduce the sizes and so on. Something that I call cost expenditure. Because the service is not paying, they think that it's not a cost. But it's a cost to the individual, especially when they don't have service tailors to alter those uniforms for them. So I go for the height. Around the world, it looks to be the tradition. And once it is so, it suggests that it has been designed, based on historical experience, that below 5'5", thereabout for women and 5'8" for men. If you recruit such persons, you might have issues within the team. with operational aspects like, as I said, jumping onto and off vehicles and so on and so forth. And as somebody has suggested, there could also be a biological or medical reason that, when you are dwarfed, some, processes within your body might not have formed very well or performed very well, and therefore you might have some kind of deficiency. But I'll leave that to the medical experts, and I don't want to venture into the human rights aspects.
Right.
But let me also say that the army, for instance, height levels are lower than that for the police. And the experience shows that in some tactical situations, you need smaller, shorter people to navigate through very difficult places, like going through holes, assuming caves and so on. So there's a pros and cons to the debate. But obviously, you're not going to be able to take somebody who is 3 feet tall, and recruit them into your security services. Granted that, as I think Israel was suggested, such persons could probably do some office work, logistics work, sitting and counting boots and socks and uniforms, or typing and those kinds of things, But if you standardize it, it's better. Everybody knows the standard, and then we go by the standards. Do we still need to go by these standards that are ages old, or we need to reform them? There are aspects that I think we need to reform, and height will be one of them.
All right.
When you say that you agree with the fact that maybe we need to reform some of these things, what would your recommendations be in terms of height? And how would these recommendations then counter the problems that you have raised that, shorter people would face if they joined the army? So
we need now to have a scientific approach to it. So it's not a matter of sitting around the table and deciding that, okay, the Ghana Armed Forces or Immigration or Fire Service or whatever can recruit 3 feet tall people. You need to scientifically look at the question, bring in medical experts, then bring in, the soldiers also, who are also experts. Like, as I've said, any time we used to go on route marches, those of us who are a bit taller, and especially those who are very tall, were spending a lot of energy because the shorter people were not going as fast as they could, And even in immigration, you could have those kinds of tactical situations if you are deployed in some border areas and so on, So height still matters. The question is, how low do you go?
How low do you go?
How low do you go should be the question. And the answer must come from scientific assessment and scientific estimates and operational as well as institutional appraisal before we can alter, these kinds of standards. I have other comments, but I think you now want to focus on
all right.
So I'll leave it at that.
All right, so we'll come back and look at the other criteria that they're using to disqualify people. But I'll bring in Adam Bona here. Adam Bona, so would also want to understand what you make of this height restriction.
Yes, just like my colleague Festus, did put out, it's important not to equate the security agencies to the other organizations where mainly people, for instance, if you wanted to be a journalist, there could be specific requirements you would have to meet, either educationally, experience and all that. And I think when your producer called me yesterday, if you monitor, what's the name, the Al Jazeera's, the CNN, and the BBC's and the rest, usually take a look at reporters who report at the war front. You would notice that they are people with a certain build, with a certain height. The truth is that if you are going to report in the war front or you are going to be working with security agencies, then chances are that your ability to move, your strength should be, if not at par to them, it should be your ability to go along with them, stay with them, should not be impeded by your height. And just like you said, look at most of the security agencies, the vehicles they use. These are rugged vehicles. These are vehicles that your ability to jump in sometime, unaided, jump out unaided is very important. And there are times that you would have to, take a good jump to either cross through some streams or rivers or, dirty waters and all that. And so these are very important things that the security agencies all over the world take into consideration. So if you look at the requirement, if you looked at soldiers in the US, if you looked at soldiers, police officers in the US, Britain, and the rest, there are some minimum height and all that they take into consideration. Even though one will say that probably the situation must be relooked at, I would say that there has to be, usually there is a requirement. I don't know whether that is done here, but how many people do you need at a certain height who probably should join the team but are smart enough to do intel? They will be deployed to planes, because it's not every soldier, it's not every police officer, who wears uniform. There are some who are recruited to perform other tasks. But for general duty officers, you must meet the general standard requirement. If you don't meet them, I'm wondering what probably would make from these agencies. I have heard about the scars and all that. I don't know if you want me to veer into that, Israel.
We'll come to the scars bit, but there are many people who look at this height restriction and they say that, well, it's just in all the other criteria that have been introduced, and they're saying that you can use that maybe for the Ghana Armed Forces and the other security agencies, but when it comes to immigration service, where a lot of the people, or a considerable number of the people, end up in offices and be sitting behind desks. So why do we introduce that in the first place?
No, it is not right. Anybody who tells you immigration officers largely sit in the offices, it is an insignificant number of them who sit predominantly in the offices. The reason is that immigration officers, in the past, they used to be called, the border, the border, it has to do with border. But even today, it has metamorphosed into what they do today is largely policing our borders. Most of them, if you go to Elubo, you go to Aflao, they stay in the thick of the forest, they stay in the bushes, most of them largely. And as we speak, forwarding bases are getting built for them across because of, illicit firearms coming in and, terrorists who are likely to come in. And so you have them, anyone who tells you that immigration officers largely, you only see when you go to Aflao, for instance, how many of them would you see within the post? Most of them have been deployed along the, what was the name? The unapproved routes, just like in the US. You go to the US-Mexico border, you will not find officers, but you will see the Homeland Security officers, those who are in charge of border patrols patrolling. And so probably we have, it is something people have cultivated, thinking that as an immigration officer, you sit in an office. No, it is just an insignificant number who sit in the office. But their work predominantly is to ensure that the borders are safe. Those who are coming in at the airport, yes, are checked. But one cannot use that as a basis to say, because of that, let's get the height. Just like my colleague Festus did say, yes, we might have to look at it from a more scientific, empirical base, but there has to be a requirement from the immigration people themselves, based on experience on the field, that we need a certain height. But it looks like over the years, they have maintained the status quo, so that when you ask them to explain, they are not able to tell you that for Elubo, we notice it because the conditions in Elubo will be different from Hamile, and therefore we need maybe slightly shorter people in Hamile Or what do we? So these are conversations that some of us are expecting them to bring on the table for probably perusal.
All right. Now, let me bring you in again, Colonel Festus of Waje. So let's look at the other criteria that's being used to disqualify people. There's talk of body piercing, for instance, and excessive stretch marks. Can you please explain to us why these things are necessary?
Well, I think in very general terms, let's use scarring. That for the security services, you're going to wear uniform. And the uniform would include trousers tucked into boots for long hours, especially if you're on operation. So you generate a lot of heat. And experience has shown that some scars can regenerate and become fresh wounds, especially towards the lower limbs, the feet, and so on and so forth. So in general, scarring must be to the minimum. And any scarring around your feet will be a good reason why you should be disqualified, because you're going to have injuries of your scars regenerating. So I don't have any qualms with that. Indeed, I will fully endorse that. Let me also add that we look at how you stand, your gait. And normally, you must have the opening in your sole. You must not be flat-footed. Because those who are flat-footed spend a lot of energy when they walk, scientifically, more than those who have those openings. So in the Ghana Armed Forces, for instance, and I believe that goes for the other security services, any flat-footed person will be disqualified. You must also not be bow-legged, extreme bow-legged. A bit of it is fine. We see footballers and so on, sports persons who are bow-legged. A bit of it. But beyond a certain range, bow-leggedness will disqualify you. And I think the question about the scarring applies to the piercing of the ears. But that is the one that I would least support. That I cannot relate how any piercing of the ears, whether one on each side, or two on each side, or three on each side, should be one of the criteria for disqualifying anybody from recruiting or enlisting into these services. I am tempted to think that piercing might have been equated or associated with certain lifestyles, and that probably from the colonial times, our masters decided that they don't want those kinds of people in in their services. And then we have maintained them. When you wear hats, they don't cover your ears. It's only the fragmentation jacket, or let's call it the helmet, that will cover your ear. So there is some sense that under certain climatic conditions, extreme temperatures, your ear piercings may probably regenerate into wounds. But the question is, if you have one on each side, does it make a difference if you have two on one side and one on the other,
exactly.
or two on both sides? So I don't think that is something that I will endorse. You are looking for people who can perform a function. The function lies in other areas like strength, physical fitness, medical fitness, your aptitude, your academic, competencies, and so on. Now, your ears and how they appear, I don't think should be part of the criteria. Then you come to this tattooing that has become so fashionable these days, to the extent that even Christians have stopped believing in Old Testament rules. Because in Leviticus, I believe that there is this detailed, prescription or proscription of putting any marks on your body. But when you tattoo your body, you have altered your skin. You have pierced the skin and you have altered it. And therefore, there is a likelihood that under certain conditions, those piercings can regenerate into wounds. Again, lastly, tattooing is associated with certain lifestyles. I don't want to mention them, but we know that, there are people who are probably drug addicts, they drink too much, They are antisocial people and so on and so forth. And you don't want those kinds of traits, in your security services. So I will endorse tattooing. It makes you stand out as somebody who doesn't conform and so on. So tattooing should be equated to scarring or scars. I will endorse that.
All right.
But the ear piercing, I have serious issues about why any man or woman who has pierced the ears should not be, enlisted into some of these services.
All right. Adam Bona, do you also have a problem with the ear piercing requirement?
Well, I believe the ear piercing requirements could probably, yes, I have a bit of a problem with it, in the sense that I believe they are taking it from the point of view of, those who do that probably are not very disciplined. Those who do that are people who kind of probably have led a certain lifestyle. And so I think that should be it. But when you also take, the issue of, body tattoos, tattoos, tattoos usually is also related to, some persons who belong to gangs or gangsters, who belong to various cults and all that. And so if you were deployed as a soldier, for instance, and you were caught as a prisoner of war, you should be able sometimes to disguise yourself, or sometimes you have some of these gangsters finding their way into some of these services. So as much as possible, I think now the issue, some of these things have been relaxed in the US and in other places when it has to do with the tattoo. But obviously, once you alter your skin, chances are that could generate into sore, and the issue of what do you call it, scars. You is that if you were, let's say, a police officer, an immigration officer, and you were deployed on our highway and you were dropped in the middle of nowhere and you were supposed to be wearing a combat boot, for instance, you are likely to be there with your ration, just a bit of water, a bit of this, a bit of that, and you stay there for weeks, or you are lost. You were in a certain group and you lost your way. You end up in your boots for weeks. The chances are that you go through water, you dry up, you go, and so your what do you call it? The skin, if part of your skin, is weak because you have had some tattoos or you have had, scars, surgical scars, some chances are that they would degenerate into sores and get infected. And that could lead to probably you not being able to, continue with the rest of the group. And so these are usually the general requirement. But specifically, I do believe that for those who are recruited for other purposes, so for instance, if you are recruited as a military nurse, as a military doctor, there are certain criteria you might not need to meet. And so these are some of the things I have heard when we read the comments, people thinking that this is, is ridiculous, but it is not. If you have ever been part of some of these, agencies when they are deployed, then you would understand how tedious it is. I'm sure my colleague, Colonel, will tell you what it takes if you are deployed and you have to be in your boots for days on ending, what it takes to do that. And it's not something for the faint-hearted, Israel.
So, I'm just reading on the internet and just trying to get a little bit more familiar with some of what the other armies in the world do. Now, for example, the U.S., and I'll use the U.S. again because, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but the U.S. have been in a lot more wars, for example, than than Ghana has been. But the US allows tattoos. They consider two things: the placement of the tattoo and the message of the tattoo. So we know that they don't allow tattoos on the arms and, you know, above the neck and all of that, but they have it on the face and also what the tattoo says. Is that saying that perhaps countries like the United States have not considered, you know, walking through swamps or, you know, being uncomfortable in your uniform? And maybe I even dare say that US soldiers have had to face maybe more life-threatening situations even. I mean, being captured in Iraq and all those things. And I mean, those kinds of issues don't seem to come up for them. So that's one point. And if you can address that, Adam, and also Kenel Abaji. Also, Kenel talked about the fact that tattoos, and it's good that you raised that point about the fact that, you know, the Bible, Leviticus talks about tattoos, you know, and all of that. I'm tempted to think that we're influenced a lot more by our religious beliefs, considering that a lot of Ghanaians eat lobsters and prawns, and Leviticus also does talk about not eating shellfish. Would you say that apart from some of these reasons that you're giving, there's also a lot of what our society dictates as right and wrong and perception and religion? Do you think that these things really maybe play much more of a role in these determinants than we're willing to admit?
Who starts?
You can start.
Okay. Now, let me agree with all that you said about the U.S. Army. You realize that the average British officer does not keep a beard. In fact, the average British citizen doesn't wear beard until recently when, you know, cultures are being changed. But there are other cultures where if you don't keep a beard, you don't seem to be a man. So there is everything about culture to these issues.
Okay.
There's a cultural dimension. Now, if the U.S. has relaxed the rules, as they indeed appear to be relaxing the rules to recruit or admit lesbians and gay and so on into their services, does that mean that globally around the world, everybody else must relax their rules?
I don't want to think that you're likening tattoos and, you know, to being lesbian.
I'm not challenging you. I'm just speaking to the issue.
Okay.
The whole idea is that any scarring of the body, especially tattooing, can induce skin cancer. In my own village, I've seen, in fact, those who also bleach. I think that is one of the criteria.
Yes.
There are persons who have bleached and later on are suffering serious skin cancer. So there are good reasons, in fact, medical reasons and health reasons, scientifically based, why some of these types of lifestyles should not be admitted into the services. The question of the tattoos again, and I think my colleague Adam mentioned it, it is not just tattooing. They send out messages, and some of the messages could be, you know, what the issue is in the space, the critical race theory, supremacy theories, and those kinds of things, or some religious messages that look down upon, you know, other groups and so on. You don't want those kinds of divisions within your security services. You want people to associate as one team, you know. So I will agree that, yes, the U.S. is doing it, but I don't think because the U.S. is doing it, it is time for everybody else to do it. If a U.S. soldier, GI, who has tattooed the body, suffers skin cancer, they have a huge medical infrastructure. And I believe one of the reasons why the U.S. doesn't want to admit lesbians is about the cost. I have not really understood what the cost is. You know, it looks like that lifestyle comes with a lot of health problems, you see. So I will endorse the rejection or disqualification of those who have tattooed their bodies. But I think it should be relaxed for piercing of the ear. The rest of them should be maintained.
And what about stretch marks, Kenel?
Oh, stretch marks, yes. Stretch marks have the same issue. They can be health issues. You know, they can, you know, degenerate into wounds that have to be treated. So it comes with
I beg to differ on that, and maybe we should get a health expert in. But
the idea is that when the skin stretches, the skin has naturally altered. The whole question is that you're going to join a service where you're going to wear uniform for a considerable length of time. You see, then if you have worn uniforms, you know that, in fact, if you see soldiers, that's what I can relate to. When we remove our shirt, you see that our arms and around our neck are very, very black. And then the rest of the place that is covered, is fairly fair. There's a lot of heat that generates under those uniforms and in those boots. So let me admit that maybe I didn't argue well for the stretch marks, but there's something about stretch marks that becomes a health issue. And maybe another expert can speak to that.
Sure. So, Adam Bona, there are those who look at all these the criteria that's being used, and they just come to the conclusion that the services simply want to, cut down on the numbers. So for the immigration, apparently 28,000 people applied, and they're looking for maybe about 2,000. So they have to find all sorts of ways to just, reduce or eliminate people. Isn't that about time we took a look at all of these criteria and probably, yes, use some medical advice or get some science behind it?
Well, you might be right. They might be out there also trying to reduce the numbers, obviously, because they had approval for just 2,000, applicants to be recruited, qualified applicants to be recruited. But just as the issue of tattoos. So what your colleague read on the internet about the U.S. soldiers, yes, to a very large extent, it is true. But I do also know, because I have colleagues who actually work within the U.S. and senior officers and all that. And I am aware, I do know that, so for instance, if you were getting deployed to an Arab country, so you are talking about, you are getting deployed to Syria, or you are getting deployed to some of these Arab or Arabian countries. If you carry a certain tattoo, you will not be deployed. Do you remember the U.S. has a very large army, and therefore they are able to select who should go. So recently, when the U.S. had to withdraw from, what's the name, this country? What's the name? This country, they recently, say it again?
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, yes. You notice that when they were in, Afghanistan, wherever they were camping, they had to ensure that a certain graffiti, you didn't have to put a certain graffiti because that was, offensive. But you go to most U.S. bases, they come up with all sorts of funny graffiti. And so if you, for instance, were carrying, a certain tattoo on you as a U.S. Army officer, that to any Muslim or any Arab, that is offensive to the religion, and you were captured, you would know that they will not be lenient with you. If even they are interpreted, because obviously when they go to some of these countries, they work with the local people. So they would usually deploy people who qualify at a certain level to be deployed. And so let's not mix it up, because usually they will put out some of this information on the internet and leave out those that they think we shouldn't know. But I'm telling you for a fact that tattoos and all these things carry a lot of messages. And so if you deploy people who are, let's say you have the, Arab-Jew conflict. So you are deploying people into an area that that if you were carrying a message that is portraying a certain message to the Arabian, they would see you even though you are there for peacekeeping. So let's say you are, a Ghanaian, and you have an Israeli flag, tattooed on your body, and you are deployed to Syria, or you are deployed to Sudan, you are deployed to any, Islamic country. You know that, first of all, the local people will not want to work with you because there is that perception. There will be that perception that you are in bed with probably some of the people they don't like. Is it John Pencil? When we were at the World Cup or one of the tournament, it was just an Israeli flag he brought out after a goal had been scored. And that took, an international dimension that some of us thought, well, what is going on here? He later on came to apologize.
So essentially, someone like me, Israel, I can't be deployed to Syria or anywhere else if I was in the army.
No, it is. I am only. It's a name. What I'm trying to say is that your name. This is a name given to you at birth. The fact that you have Israel doesn't mean that you are from Israel. But what I'm trying to say is that you put on tattoos. You didn't give yourself the name Israel. I'm sure your parents would have given that to you.
Yeah.
So let's separate. All
right.
Let's focus on tattoos. Mine is that tattoos at a certain level are not permissible within the security services.
All right.
And let's also remember that, like my colleague Festus did say, the Americans are now relaxing some of their own stance on some of, when it comes to, lesbianism, gayism and all that. They are beginning to relax some of the laws. But the truth is that this has been with them for years, and probably for purposes of cost, purposes of health and all that, these people are still restricted. And so mine is that let's be careful with the conversation so that we don't just say, because they are the number they are supposed to recruit is small, they are finding other ways and means to get our people. If you are not qualified based on height, based on tattoos you have, based on stretch marks, based on, I think that, we would have to, the conversation should continue, but let's not make it look like the reason given are not good reasons. Some of the reasons are very good. And so we shouldn't be seen to be pushing the security agencies because today Ghana is peaceful. If you are deployed and you are employed or recruited, you are sent to Sudan as a peacekeeper, and something happens. Who do we blame? Do we blame the recruiter, or we blame us who forced them or who said they should change the way they do things?
All right. Well, we're not going to force anybody to do that. We just feel that a conversation should be had, and that's a conversation that we're having. But I want to end on this note, and quite associated with it, though it's not one of the criteria. But what do you make, and I'll start with you, Colonel Festus Obaj, what do you make of this requirement that you're supposed to buy a form for 100 cedis and before you apply and all of that? Why can't the government bear the cost?
Well, thanks for that question. Well, let me quickly make a comment on that. The idea that we're using some of these criteria to weed off and cut down the numbers. There is some truth in that. You're looking for 2,000, as you said, and you have to now manage, let's say, 10,000, 15,000. You've got to find ways of, first of all, reducing the numbers before you start critically looking at. Let's know that they haven't even gone for the medical. And that's another serious criteria, So I support the idea that if you're going to take in 1 year 600 soldiers at LWAC, that's all the Ghana Armed Forces require. And then they had to handle about 3,000. They group them into 10s, 20s, 50s, and put them on the 100-yard stretch, blew the whistle, and then took only 5, out of the number, a certain number out of the lot, just to find ways and means of reducing the numbers. But as Adam said, you don't use arbitrary benchmarks. You use the same criteria to weed down, cut down the numbers. So there's nothing wrong with that. But on the question that you just asked, can you remind me again, please?
About the application form you're supposed to pay.
You see, in the previous year, if not last year, about 2 or so years ago, this debate came up that if people are paying for forms and there is a high degree that they're not going to be taking, there's a bit of exploitation in there. In any case, how much is the form? If you add all the HR work behind the form, how much is it? There's something about it that is contrary to labor laws. I headed an international organization, the African Peace Support Trainers Association. When we advertised per Kenyan law that all recruitment, whatever, must be advertised for 2 weeks in certain types of daily, we did that at the cost of the organization. You didn't need to recoup or recover those costs from those who are applying. The same applies in South Africa, the same applies in Ethiopia, everywhere. Why is it that these security agencies have now found a way of making profits out of recruitment? And I think last year, one of the suggestions was, okay, in that case, all those who do not pass must have a refund. Their monies must be reimbursed to them. It's not fair, And I think this is in the domain of labor laws. Why nobody must pay for forms and then go at the first stage of body selection, physical selection, be disqualified. And that is not to talk about the cost. As we are speaking, I have a relative from my village from Jasu who has come, and it's in Accra. The logistical cost, the inconveniences, you see what I mean, on top of the cost of the forms. If he or she doesn't pass at this first stage, or even if he or she fails at the last stage, medical and so on, I think we need to review that.
Yeah. All right.
Can the Immigration Service bear the cost of this exercise? Whatever it is, and make it part of their budget that they take to Parliament and get the money given to them by the state to spend on the recruitment. The other side of the forms is that you might think that 100 cities is maybe too cheap. But we know that in this society that we are, 100 cities is a lot of money. And therefore, because some people cannot afford 100 cities, they don't stand the chance of getting recruited into these services. In other words, there's a bit of lack of equity or inequity there.
Yeah.
That the playing field is not level for everybody. It is only those who can afford the 100 cities. And then the idea that if in a day, you can only handle 50 or 100, why do you bring 3,000 people to Elwak or anywhere else? Why? Why can't you work with a number and call them in batches of whatever the number is that you can handle in a day? Thereby, you reduce the time that people have to spend away from their homes. You reduce the inconvenience. I saw one lady sitting down, maybe tired. You see, it doesn't mean she's not physically fit. So we need to look at some of these managerial aspects of recruitment.
All right.
They don't speak well.
Yeah.
As said on other platforms, that people will be watching recruitment and the way they are running up and down, holding their paper. I mean, if somebody is holding their paper in their hand, what has that got to do with recruitment? Why can't they walk, leisurely?
Thank you.
They're not doing that because the numbers are too large.
Thank you very much.
Because somebody failed to manage the numbers.
Ken Alabaje, thank you very much for your insights, but we'd have to end the conversation here. I'd want to take your final thoughts on this same issue, Adam Bona.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, I think that deliberately, because there is lack of employment for, our young persons or our children, most of these young people, lack of places for them to be recruited or employed. Some of them actually sometimes try to play around when they are filling the forms. I have had persons who spoke to me, and sometimes you see them and you say, looking at you, your height, you will be disqualified. They will still go and buy the form, buy the card, and go and apply, and go to the body selection. Be invited for body selection, only to be disqualified.
Yeah.
And so mine is that, yes, probably the amount being charged should be looked at. But when you deliberately decide to, that you looking at the requirement, you don't qualify, Don't go by for it. I have people, don't go for it. I have people, young persons who, you know your grades, these grades you have, you are, you know, disqualified straight away. Those who go and buy the scratch card, put in their details, and then be disqualified, and they print the disqualification notice they receive. And so mine is that I really have no qualms about the, you know, the amount of money being charged. The truth is that anyone who works with the security agencies will tell you that sometimes the money that are supposed to come in for them to undertake some of these exercises isn't coming. But I agree with my colleague Festus on the fact of, you know, getting them, all of them, you know, budged up, putting all of them at one location in the midst of COVID. I mean, I think that
that's something that should be looked at. Okay.
Yes. They should call them in back, just like you said. I think that is more humane and decent than treating them the way they are treating them at the moment.
All right. Thank you to you both, Adam Bonan, security analyst, and to you, Colonel Festus Abaje, retired, also security analyst. We appreciate your time here on the AM show. I'm sure the conversations will continue, and on our social media handles, you can join in and let's get to hear what you make of it. But we're taking a break here on the AM show. We have more coming up. Don't go away. So it's still the AM show, and we're going to have a conversation about the Graphic-Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting. And I've been joined in the studio by Franklin Soa, Director Marketing and Sales at Graphic Communications. And then Kojo Labi is a Communications Manager at Stanbic Bank. Good morning to you, gentlemen. What's happening? I'll start with you. What's happening on the Tuesday, November 2, 2021?
Thank you very much. Tuesday, November 2, 2021 is the final session for the year, the Graphic Business Stanbic Breakfast Meeting.
So there have been series throughout the year. This is the
quarterly. Yes, it's a quarterly session. So this is the fourth quarter session. And the focus is on pre-budget 2022 insights and recommendations.
Okay. What are some of the highlights you expect from this discussion?
I mean, obviously, we know that in November, latter part of November, the Ministry of Finance, through the Minister, present the budget for the ensuing year. And as a business newspaper, of course, and a news house, and then, of course, our partner, Stanbic Bank, we realize that it's crucial for us to create a platform to get relevant stakeholders come in to have a conversation, share some insights, and give some recommendations as to how this budget will be more meaningful to us as a people, to the business community, and to the nation as a whole.
So essentially, whatever views are collated at this forum can be factored into the budget preparation?
We may not necessarily say so.
All right.
But of course, we have the Honorable Minister Charles Edu-Boahen delivering the keynote address, and definitely I'm sure he will pick up some insights that will inform some of the things that I'm sure that a lot has been done. We are aware that there's been a lot of stakeholder engagement. So some of the highlights, I believe, will either reinforce the thinking or probably reshape some of the propositions that the document might capture. Essence is that how do we contribute into making this more meaningful into the future? And how will the average Ghanaian appreciate some of the interventions and initiatives and the policy directions? What will be our role as a people? Because everything else we're doing is informed by how we understand it and how we respond to it. So if the people understand the direction and we all know the obligations on us to ensure that we are meeting some of these things, why not? In terms of our demands on government, in terms of requests from different sectors and all that, how do we blend it to ensure that we are addressing the major issues that will impact our economy positively, that will move us from these huge debt challenges that we are hearing and we are seeing, and make our nation a better nation into the future.
So we've seen Stanbic Bank partner Graphic Communications throughout these engagements that you've been doing. And so I'll come to you, Mr. Labi, in a bit. But back to you, how best can the Procurement Authority and the Procurement Ministry prevent issues of inflated costs, among others, in all public procurement?
I think that some of these things are likely to come up to next week in the session, because we all admit that you hear a lot of issues around inflated cost of projects, inflated cost of contracts, and all those things. And these are all financed from the meager resources we are able to generate internally through taxes and, of course, through borrowing. Now, the question is that if there are ways to improve on careful scrutiny on some of these things that are coming in and making sure that we are getting value for money, for instance, definitely there will be efficiency in application of resources, and it will have an impact on the nation. And the whole thinking is that let us bring relevant stakeholders together from the ministries, from the financial sector, non-banking, finance, professional associations, trade unions, and highly selected academia, of course, just to make sure that we have a fair blend of people who will have slightly different input that may be useful in the direction.
So we have all these people, featuring or being on the panel and joining in the conversation, but who can join to partake?
We are open to everybody. The physical is highly managed because of the COVID protocols and all that. So strictly by invitation at Labadi Beach Hotel. But we are on Daily Graphic and then on the Stanbic Bank platforms virtually, and you can join and follow the conversation. We are also fortunate to have the multimedia group as a partner, so it will be live on Joy News and on Joy FM as well at some point. So the whole nation should follow on the 2nd of November, and let us enjoy the conversation and pick up some insights.
So Stanbic has been partnering graphic business all this while. Why do you keep, or what is it that keeps you, partaking or supporting them throughout all these?
Israel, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful marriage. Our partnership with Graphic indeed has allowed us the opportunity to discuss key topical issues that are of relevance to the nation. And it's turned out to be worthwhile. So what is good, what is not wrong, you don't fix if it's not spoiled. And we think that it's good to continue with this relationship, because it's always a good idea to have creative ways of solving problems. I come from a bank that is saying that let's look for new ways of realizing our dreams. Ghanaians want to be prosperous, right? We are looking out for all those difficult challenges and difficult answers that need to be made. If this provides a platform, if we get a chance to hear our people speak, it's not just the people who are in there, but when you listen to our citizens, making recommendations, for example. I mean, the difficult conversations around, you remember free electricity and water? When it was taken, at the time people enjoyed it, I'm sure they loved it.
Yeah.
Then later they realized they had to be paid for. I'm sure there will be many difficult situations in the future where government will take on things that initially people may not like, or even if they love it. Did they have an input? You remember, go back to the American War of Independence, and I guess the key fact was around the fact that people thought they were not represented in making decisions. I guess this platform allows our people to be part of what we do, to be part of what government intends to do. And then when there's success, we all enjoy it. If we have pain to bear, if we have bones to crash together, we all know that we're part and parcel of what is happening. I guess that's why we keep on every time, every day. I mean, through Graphic, through yourselves and other partners.
Right.
This has been such a worthwhile marriage.
What's the date again?
2nd November 2021, Tuesday.
That's next week.
That's next week, Tuesday. Yeah.
All right. Thank you to you both for joining us. Or your final thoughts before we go.
Yeah. So on Tuesday we have Honorable Charles Edubuahin to deliver the keynote address.
Right.
We have a consultant, financial consultant, and a lecturer from GIMPA, Randolph Abdullah, as one of the panel members. We have Dr. Priscilla Chumesi from the University of Ghana Economics Department. And then we have Dr. Abdullah Ali Nachia, who is an extremely
tax expert.
Absolutely, because we believe strongly that we need to mobilize our revenues well. We need systems in place to ensure that we have expanded the tax net enough. So those of us who are paying will pay slightly lower. because a lot more people
can be paid.
Exactly.
Right.
And those are some of the things we expect to hear and see.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you to you both for joining us for the conversation. And you're still here on the AM Show. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. All right, so the National Science and Maths Quiz is underway. The prelims of the National Science and Maths Quiz competition is continuing with exciting contests lined up for today. The likes of Archbishop Porter Girls SHS are looking at winning their contest in order to qualify for the 1/8 stage to be staged in Kumasi. Maxwell Agbagba is at the University of Cape Coast where the Western Zone contest will be held. Manuel Kranting is also in Tamale. Let's start with you, Maxwell, in the Western Zone contest. Hello, Maxwell.
Yeah, Israel.
So what can you report where you are?
Rightly mentioned, Israel. We're here at the University of Cape Coast. Exactly. So we are here at the University of Cape Coast where the Western region, the Western Zone contest, and then the Central region contest will be taking place. We finished with the Greater Accra region where 3 schools qualified to the 1/8 stage of the competition. I'm talking about Chemu Senior High School, Odogono Senior High School, and then St. Thomas Aquinas Senior High School. We're going to see today whether Archbishop Porter Girls, whether they can qualify, whether Hunterman Girls would also qualify to the 1/8 stage, which would be in Kumasi. Let's talk to your teacher, sir. You're welcome to join us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
From a Hunterman Girls.
From Hunterman Girls Senior High School.
How hopeful are you? Are you qualifying to Kumasi?
Oh, we are fully prepared. And we hope for the best.
You are hoping for the best?
We are hoping for the best.
Okay.
We are fully prepared.
Archbishop Porter Girls, you are the reigning champions of the Western Zone.
Yes, please.
Tell us, what should we expect in your contest today?
More than what you saw in Takrade.
More than what we saw in Takrade?
Yes.
Fireworks?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. Let me talk to the girls. Hey girls, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh no, I'm not feeling the vibe. Why? Have you taken breakfast yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. But how can we know that Archbishop Porter Girls, you guys are here? How can we feel that? You want to sing us your school song? Do that for us. Morning hymn. Do that for us. Do that for us, okay? Do that for us. Let's hear you. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh Lord our God, we praise thy holy name. Bless our noble school, Archbishop Porter Girls. Ave Maria. Ave Maria, Ave Mother of our Savior. Pray for us, pray for us, pray for the founding fathers.
Okay.
Pray for us.
You know what? I'm not going to ask you any further questions. You've made my morning. Thank you so much. And all the best in your contest, yeah? Let's speak to the ladies from Ahantaman Girls. Ahantaman, what's up with you guys? Okay, what should we expect in today's contest? Are you guys winning? Are you qualifying to the 1/8 stage?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You had Archbishop Porter Girls. We want to have a feel of you guys from Ahantaman Girls. So let's go. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
There is light on the hill, with its hope we can feel in our hearts. We must sell our dear hearts. Give your best, we shall say, and our parts we shall play to lift our Maker. Our hands are pride, black and white. We portray harmony. It's a gift.
Okay, so we are crossing over to Tamale right now. So I want to end here, but in 5 seconds, what should we expect in today's contest?
We are going to...
You're winning today's contest?
Yes, please.
And you're qualifying for the 1/8 stage, I want to believe?
Yes, please.
Okay, wishing you all the best in your contest today.
So,
okay.
Agbagba,
that is what is going to happen here. We have 3 contests taking place today.
Go. I'm interested in the short form of the school name. So, is it Ahantas or?
Oh, the short form of the school names. Ahantaman SHS. What's the short form?
Ahans. Agis.
Agis.
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's Agis.
How about
Archbishop Potter Girls is what?
Archbishop Potter Girls.
APGS.
Okay, don't know about Archbishop Potter Girls. I think the only one I know is Royal Drobo Secondary School and then Drobo Secondary School. Yeah, that's for those ones I know.
Yeah,
but the rest is quite difficult.
Which one is that?
But let's link up to Manuel, who is also in Tamale.
Yes, thank you very much, Maxwell. So Maxwell has been coming through from the University of Cape Coast, and here in the Nat Hall in Tamale is also about to go down. In fact, the boys have been separated from the men, and today there are 3 contests featuring 9 schools in all that are going to go down. The very first contest features Zebula Senior High School, of course, the reigning champions from the Upper West region, St. Francis Xavier SH. Let me talk to Zebula. Quickly, what's your name?
Umbe Michael.
Great. I see you're already seated, getting ready to have your contest. Tell us, what's the feeling like and what are we to expect from you?
Oh, we're actually impressed. We are here this morning. We went through the regionals and we sailed through. So we are happy we are here and we are going to make it.
You're happy you're here and you're going to make it. Yes. Well, as we were talking, the boys from St. Francis Xavier Minor Seminary are coming through. They just come through to this point. Tell me, what's your name? He says that, well, he's happy to be here and he's definitely going to.
All right, so that's Manuel Kranting joining us live from Tamale. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the girls that Maxwell Agwagba has with him. But that's it for the AM show. Thank you very much for joining. Make a date with us same time tomorrow. You have a wonderful day. And the Habitat Fair is actually happening today. Do stay tuned into the rest of our programs. And the 2021 National Science and Maths Quiz is produced by Primetime Limited and sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with AFSA Ghana. The broadcast of the National Science and Maths Quiz on Joy News is supported by Cowbell, our milk, high in protein and vitamins, Papa's Pizza, Taste It, Love It, Ace Medical Insurance, the new face of health financing, Tampico, Simply Irresistible, DBS Industries Limited, we truly are your roof experts, Dole Yogurt, more, I need more. That's it. Have a wonderful day.